Welcome, welcome, welcome back to Truth Quest. My name is Aaron Moriarity. I will be your host, and we're going to go on a quest for truth together because we're just downrange of strange, where the outrageous is contagious and the paranormal is the new normal. Yes, that's how you know you're questing for the truth. You're at the Truth Quest, baby. That's where it's at. Alrighty then, I am going to share this out so we can get all of our friends over here. How's that sound? Because we have the coolest chat in the country. The coolest chat, yes. We are live. Coolest chat anywhere. How you like that? There you go. Now all of our non-shadow banned friends over there at Facebook can see it, maybe, hopefully. We'll see. I think that they might. They might see it. Let me see. I think I might have to share a link over here to friends. Hello. Glad that you made it here tonight. If there's anybody out there, I hope that you're all doing very well on this fine Monday night. There you go. All righty then. Well, I hope everyone had a fine weekend, and happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. So, I hope that you're all having a nice, fine Valentine's Day. Whether you're with your better half or not, hope that today was a good day for you and this weekend was good. Yeah, let's see, to a page. Let's get this over to the Truth Quest Facebook page too. And maybe we can get our friends on over and let's check the old chatteroony. And we're still, maybe I'm the only one watching right now. So hello, myself. How you doing today? Doing fine. Not bad. Not too shabby. Maybe I want to get something up here. And let's see how this will play. Let's see how this looks. Well, look at that. Well, how do you like that? Those are the love bugs, friends. Those are a line of characters that I developed a whole storyline around and different stories. Going to be in book form and all kinds of other forms. You can actually get these two characters on a t-shirt right now in the t-shirt shop. So there you go. There you go. Yeah, so happy Valentine's Day. So there's the love bugs. Those are made by myself. There you go. If you go on my Facebook page, I have a Hot Games and Puzzles page. And on there you can see some animation that I did. Kind of rough animation to kind of show you what the love bug world would be like. And so there it is. It's on there. If you're curious and you want to see it. So there you go. And there you have it. Well, looks like, well, you know, I guess I can share this out to some of my groups too. While I'm at it, why don't I just do that? All right. Live. Come on over. The Journey to Truth group. Maybe someone will see it over there. Yeah. I think that would be fun. Hello, Austin Morris. Greetings from Knoxville and Peggy Dancer. Hello there and welcome to the Truth Quest. Yes. And I got to get some hearts up there for everybody too because it's Valentine's Day. Hello, Catherine Weiss, and happy Valentine's Day to everybody. These are the love bugs that I created, and you can find some of these actually on my what you call it page, the merch shop. You can actually get an I love you little love bug hug like you see there, but it's a little more ornate and it's a little more interesting looking on the t-shirt. So you sure want to check that out. And let's see here. I have to add the content to the video here. I hope you like the love bugs. That's Buddy Love Bug and Flutter Love Bug. They're kind of in love. They're enamored with each other. So, and they're the love bugs. So there you go. And they live in Valentine Valley. And someday I'll go over the whole little storyline for you. It's pretty neat. So there you go. Almost done here. I hope you're all having a grand time. I know I'm having fun. I'm here all by myself. All by myself. But now I got all my friends here. So that's awesome. And I'm going to grab my, the merch shop information and put it up here on the chat. So hopefully that will go through. And that's where you can see a t-shirt with those guys on it. There you go. It's not going to be there by Valentine's Day, though. If you order it today, I don't think. They're not that quick. I'm so glad to see you all here. It's so nice to be amongst all my friends. Yeah, so it's a great day. You know, I was only outside a little bit today. Kind of cold here. A lot of ice. Kind of cold, but there you go. Spring's coming. Someday. We're hoping, right? Someday. So there you go. Let's see here. Hey, Dark Brain. Still stuck at work for a bit? That's okay, Dark Brain. That's just fine. Good to hear from you. And happy Valentine's Day, for sure. Whoa, Mud Rabbit was on George News tonight? We got 2 shows in a row about space. Yes. Wow. I want to hear about that, Mud Rabbit. You should call in. Wow. Is she here? Is Mud Rabbit here? Did I see her? No. Yep, she's probably got Every phone's ringing off the hook for, huh? Wow, that's great. That's good to hear. Yeah, Dark Brain's here, but he's still at work, so, but he's still here, so we're glad that he is. And if your boss is listening, you deserve a big raise, so there you go. Monitored for quality assurance, right? I always tell those when it's being recorded, I'm talking to whoever on some, about some bill or something. It's like, well, it's being recorded for quality assurance. And I always say, well, give this person a raise. Oh, the package arrived today, a mud rabbit. Oh, yes, you're welcome very much. I hope that your grandchild likes that book as well. So yeah, so Mud Rabbit, you were on George News. Tell us about this. I mean, this is interesting. I love this. Let me. I'm going to get the information because if you want to call in, Mud Rabbit, I think that would be great. You could tell us all about it. I did not hear about this. This is really breaking news for me. Breaking news for sure. Wow, fantastical. I love it. All this coolness on a very cool day, Valentine's Day. Yeah, wow. Fantastic. Well, it's not surprising. I see a lot of future stars in our chat. George had an old video. George had an old video. Okay. I better scroll up to get the full message here. Oh, she was in the chat. Not. Oh, I see, Peggy Dancer. Okay. That's still cool. Oh, showed all a film of circling the Earth, shots of the moon. Interesting. I saw something today. It was allegedly a UFO, like a cigar-shaped UFO seen by the ISS. And I watched it, and I was just shaking my head. I'm like, oh man, it's just so fake. Someone just took some of that raw footage and they just overlaid, their Photoshop. It was so blatantly obvious, but I could see where people could get tricked by it. In fact, I took some stills from it. If you want to see, hello, Mad Paj. Oh, you wish you could call, but it's 11:30 here, and I'd wake everyone up. Aw, I have to start the show earlier. So, when would be a better time to start the show, Mud Rabbit? But I guess Dark Brain's at work though, so I don't know. I'd like to figure that out. I'd like to figure it out. Make everybody happy. Make everybody happy. So did I even open those ones? I don't think I did. So, okay, friends, I made a meme. Okay, I showed this picture without any words on it the other day, I think. And I made it into a meme. And so, hot off the meme press, here for you, friends. And I think it's a pretty good one. Pretty good. Pretty good. Justin Trudeau and the truck drivers, the people. Yeah, that's what's happening. Look at that. He's tightening the screws. Not cool. Get your damn dirty hands off me, you dirty globalist. That's what he's saying. That's what Charlton Heston is saying to the ape, Justin Trudeau. Okay, you got to get this one thing done. You're not usually there that late. Okay. So many Photoshop fakers. Yeah, it's true. I got to get that picture up. I thought I had it in the lurch here, but it's not where I had thought it was. There it is. Man, I got to get a wider shot of it so you can get oh, is there a wider shot of it? Yeah. It's so hokey looking, friends. At first, it's just a little light in the distance, but then they zoom up on it, which they never do. And that's the first sign that's something bogus. And then, I mean, I'm sure it's some film student's, portfolio has to be, right? Okay, I got them all up now. So here you go. Now I'll show you what I'm talking about. You done with the meme? You like that meme? Canada, New Australia. Yeah, they're calling in the big guns. They're going to throw these people in jail. They have a concentration camp south of the city, big one, and they're going to confiscate all the trucks, and they're probably going to give them to all the immigrants, teach them how to drive. It's going to be a disaster. This is going to be the end of peacefulness in Canada if Trudeau doesn't step down immediately. That's what I think. My personal opinionated that I am. So here's that thing that I detected as a fake, phony thing. So if you see something like this, friends, I just don't think it's real. I think this looks so much like something you do in Photoshop. This is zoomed up on it. It's a scene where you see the earth below and there's a space above it and there's this thing drifting by and it looks like just the white part. But they zoom in on it and it's got all this detail. It's like super clean, but it doesn't have any diminishing lines. So it's a kind of an isometric object, which is what you get in some of these programs, more isometric and not no diminishing, like a perspective. So yeah, and then it bubbles up and disappears. It's like so fake, so fake, so fake. And I got to show you this because within a millisecond it was gone. But I noticed it looked really like something weird when it was right before it disappeared. So I slowed it down and I took a couple screenshots. And here it is. This is so phony, friends. If you see something like this, just know it's phony, okay? It's some film student's project, and he's trying to get some. You see, it's just above, so it's almost with a black background, so he doesn't have to Photoshop it in every frame or whatever they do. But see, it's starting to bulge in the center here, and it's so phony looking, friends. And then the final, before it completely disappears, this is how hokey it is. Look at this. This is ridiculous. I feel ridiculous even showing it, right? Oh, look at that. It's all puffed up, like a Stay Puffed marshmallow. Isn't that disgusting? Yeah, so that's fake. You see something like that, you can just forget about it. It's nothing that's happening. But what did happen was 40, count them, 40 of the Starlink satellites dropped to the Earth in spectacular fashion. And that was caught on tape. And I'm going to try and do something that I'm going to try showing a video again, friends, and I hope that it works. It might be a little choppy, but you know, let's just see what happens here. Real SSP assets would probably avoid the ISS. Well, that's not what what the people in the alliance were doing, because they were trying, the SSP alliance members were trying to fly their ships on purpose so that the ISS would see it. So I think a little bit of both, perhaps. A little bit of both. Okay, so here we go. Wait a minute. This isn't the video. But here they come streaking down like this. I just wanted to show you the picture of what it's going to look like. Okay, let's get to that video and see if it's going to work even. We'll see if it works. Okay. Okay, here it is. Here we go, friends. Are you ready? Oops. That's not what we want. Oh boy. Oh boy. Look at this. No, we don't want that either. Oh. Oh boy. Where's my tech director? This is not good, friends. Well, that didn't work. Gotta stop that. My goodness. Oh. See, this is what happens sometimes. I guess we're not going to be able to show it. It's not going to work. I thought we'd be able to. I thought we would be able to. But I thought wrong. I thought like Caesar. But that's what they look like. I counted there were 40 of them, friends. They're just streaming down, burning up. They're very small satellites. They're very close together. And let's just, this is so they're just streaming down at the same angle. You know, they're not very far apart from each other. They're very small and they burn up in the atmosphere. So some of the people who are talking about this are saying that, well, maybe they were shot down, because we all know Truth Social is coming online next month, middle of next month, perhaps. And some people are proposing or postulating that, you know, maybe Elon Musk and Trump have an agreement once this network of really thousands of micro satellites in orbit, creating a web that covers the whole planet. It sounds kind of dangerous to me, to, you know, cook the whole Earth with 5G radiation. Sounds kind of dangerous. But the thought is, what some people are thinking is, well, if the cabal turns off the internet, the intranet, then it would still keep going, you know? Did we lose the, where is the chat? Let's see, I gotta get back to the chat, maybe. I lost the chat. Oh no. That's the best part of the show. Uh-oh, I gotta get ready to mute it as soon as it comes on. I hope you're all doing well. And there, I think it's back. So confusing. So confusing, baby. Someday I'll have like a tech director that knows the intranet really well. There we are. We're back. All right. I'll give a little heart so that you know I'm back. Well, how do you like that? Well, that little plan didn't work, did it? See, that's why I need to get like a new setup here, because I want to expand the show to get into some of these other platforms. I'm partway onto Rumble, but I can't do anything with Rumble now because of my limitations of my confuser. So there you go. Okay, Mad Podge says, I've heard those Starlink satellites are a PITA to serious stargazers. PITA. PITA. Not hip to some of this lingo. I really do think they were a distraction. They were low Earth orbit, and the news of them was all over the place. Yes. Yeah, I'm sure you all saw it, so it's no big deal. You don't see it on my choppy video feed. Okay. Yeah, Space Force News was last night. Yeah. Great show. Great show. They got all those fancy little, in between little segments that they have. I think Brad Coladro did those for them. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Oh, pain in the rear. PITA. Oh, I thought it was like the PETA people. I didn't know. Yeah. That reminds me. I'll just type this into the thing here. Oops. Who knows what these abbreviations always confuse me. So here's what I see a lot. I don't know what it means. No one seems to know. No one seems to. I ask people and they say, I don't know. Everybody says that. Nobody knows. Can you believe it? I saw that as a meme today. It was AOC saying that. I thought it was so funny. Nobody knows. Oh, yeah. Yeah, sometimes you just cannot get an answer. It's so frustrating. But how can you get an answer when nobody knows? See, there you go. See, Mud Rabbit doesn't even know. See, nobody knows. We did not get the apes for the ethical treatment of Charlton Heston. That's right. Well, but by today's standards, he's just a white guy. So that's pretty much kind of like a lab rat to the mainstream ethos, the mainstream thought police. But I think everybody is important, no matter what color we are. We're all important. We're all part of this living world. We're all part of Valentine's Day. I didn't know he PETA was for animals, Aaron. Yeah, right? That's what I thought of. Yeah, I thought it was, yeah. PETA or PETA? Isn't that a kind of a bread too? Pita bread? Kind of like a tortilla, soft tortilla? Pita. Something like that. Yeah, I don't know. We've been staring at that way too long, friends. Way too long. So, oh, I was, I got to get a hold of the Babylon Bee because I saw this today. Friends. Check this out. It was this post I saw. Okay, so it's like celebrities assure nation they were wearing high-tech invisible masks only rich people know about. Well, hello. Obviously, they haven't heard about the Invisimask. And it's not just for rich people. Look, down here, when asked if the invisible masks will be made available to common people, well, it is. So I put the mask down here. So maybe they'll get it finally, huh? Oh, your dad is Lebanese. Pita around here is bread. See, I thought that's what that was. Pita bread. Yeah. It's the bread with no yeast in it, right? It doesn't rise. It's kind of flat. It's kind of like if you take white bread and you smush it, right? You smush it. So it's like flat. And it's free, yes, for the common person, of course. That's why I wish that I had a way to get that video out more places because then more people would know about it, right? And then, I don't know. That's just my thing. But who knows? Someday we'll figure out the mystery of this intranet, won't we? Yeah, and it's free. My gift to humanity. Hey, if it helps stop the insanity, that would be great. Flour, salt, and water. Yeah, it's pretty basic, isn't it? Yeah, I don't really buy bread anymore. I really don't buy bread. So there you go. See, the invisible mask. See, they don't know the name of it yet. They're learning. Okay. I guess I'll have to contact them there. Now I know they did interview Elon Musk, so maybe I'll just send it on over to them. See what they say. They might like that. I think they might. Then they can do a little follow-up. I think that would be great. And there you have it. And there you have it. I saw a funny meme today. It was like a video meme. And I'm not going to try and show it because we know what happens when I try that. But stop share and share screen. Look at this. I can do these things. Isn't this amazing? So this is from my Facebook friend, and you might know this person because this person has a different persona, a different name. I think a lot of us Anons have different names. This is Shiri Devi Chapman. And so it's this really weird portrait painting of Obama here with all these poison ivy leaves behind him. And then you got John Durham opens this up. It's so funny. Oh my God. I hope you all can see it. Go and friend her on Facebook if you're on Facebook. And yeah, she posts awesome stuff. And I don't know if she wants me to dox her, but I know one of her other handles. Initials would be LCB, if you could figure that one out. Everyone in Diana is going to know when I get my t-shirt. Get your Invisimask tee right here. Yes. Yes, they will know. That's going to be awesome. You saw that on Telegram too, Mud Rabbit? Yeah, that is pretty funny. I loved it. I love how there's only like 2 pictures of Durham, and he always looks like he's pissed and he's on the rampage. It's so cool. I saw another one. They took that image of him right there, and they took the Punisher image, like a negative image of it, and they placed that over him with a black background. So the part that shows up is his face in the shape of the Punisher. It's really cool. Really cool. I should have screenshotted that. I didn't think of that. Wow. But I just described it for you. Maybe you can go find it. You know, that might be a fun game to play, like internet scavenger hunt. And whoever can find something first, you know, wouldn't that be fun? Scavenger hunt. But like, you can't use Google. You got to use other means, right? Be kind of fun. I don't know. Who knows? But I thought that was pretty good. Anytime we can see Durham, especially with the news that came out, wow, Trump was right all along. He was being spied on. We all knew that. We all knew it right when he said it, because he wouldn't say it if he didn't know it. And so, you know, it's just, but this is how excruciatingly slow the wheels of justice turn when you're doing it by the book legally, right? That's right. Yeah. Alrighty then. Let's see what else we have here for you. Well, here's another, here's an old love bug design I did a long time ago with the old style eyes, kind of like the old Disney eyes. So there it is. Look at that. The Surf's Up love bug. There you go. So that's a nostalgic one, okay, from the old days. There. Love bugs. He likes surfing. Buddy love bug. And I got another little love bug picture here for you to see. And this is when the love bugs get together and 2 of their hearts connect, they get these special magical powers. And I bet you can have those powers too. Hearts are one, our minds are clear. Together, we have nothing to fear. There you go. Nothing to fear, baby. Nothing to fear. Hey, Willie Fix-It. Good to see you here. Hello, Kelly Q. Happy Valentine's Day. I gotta send another heart off to my friends here, or 2 hearts. How's that? 2 Valentine hearts for everybody. Hello, Gloria Paddock. Happy Valentine's Day. Hearts are one, our minds are clear. Together, we have nothing to fear. That's what the love bugs say. How do you like that? Someday I want to make these little guys famous by doing a series of videos and books. Someday that's going to happen. I'm going to hit the old thumbs up. I got number 16 as my lucky number. Ooh, someone got 17 right away. I should have waited. Darn. Someone got 17. I got 16. Yeah, it's good to see all you here on Valentine's Day. What a great honor to have you all here on this special, lovely day for sweethearts. Yeah. Isn't that right? Yes, prayers for Kelly Q and your friends. Yeah. Alrighty then. And I want to show you another love bug drawing that I did. Actually, this one a long time ago. A long time ago. And it's Buddy Love Bug, but he's not happy. Buddy Love Bug is not happy. I am blue without you. Aw. See his heart sag and they get smaller. So there he is. He's missing his sweetheart. So yeah, a lot of different feelings on this day that can be felt. I hope that you're all feeling good feelings on this fine, wonderful day. That's what I would say. Alrighty then. Okay. And I don't know if I showed you all the latest page of the Awesome Possum. You got a Valentine's Day lizard from your cat? Oh, yeah, I wouldn't feel left out either if I got something like that. Wow. Yeah. Happy Valentine's Day. Thank you, Gloria. Thank you. And thank you, everybody. This is wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Now, maybe I could figure something out here. Hold on a second, friends. Something has to be able to be done here. Oh, and there it is. So why wouldn't that show up? You know what? I'm going to try that. Well, I guess we've all seen that, didn't we? But if I can get it to work still, I might. Okay? Let's get rid of sad boy. And maybe this will work this time. Let's see if this is going to work. Brother from another mother. Let's see if it's going to work. So where is it? There it is. Okay, here we are. I think it's going to work, friends. Now this might be kind of choppy, so let me know. And we're going to turn off the sound. See, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I counted 40. 8, 9, 10. I might miscount. 11, 12. I don't know. Is this the boringest TV you ever saw? Well, thank you very much, Catherine Weiss, for the awesome, very generous super chat. Thank you so very much. Wow. Yeah, there they are, streaking across the sky, kind of like disappearing. Apparently, they're not very big. I'm envisioning the size of like a toaster or something. It looks like they're not very far apart from each other, and they're not equal distance from each other either. Isn't that strange? But it looks like they're all going to hit in the same spot. Like some kid's wagon is going to get full of stuff or something. Who knows, right? Who knows? Yeah. Kind of freaky, huh? We'll see the last ones come here. And there's exactly 40 of them. I counted earlier. So you don't have to count it. There we go. That was it. Wait a minute. Is there more? Nope, that's it. Okay. There. We got it to work. Yay. Wow, I did something. So proud of myself. Yeah. There you go. Let's see how long it takes me to forget that. They all look the same. Yeah, they are. They are. You vote fake? You think they're fake, Mud Rabbit? They're claiming, some are claiming that it was the solar flare that knocked these out. But it might have been just like a launch trajectory because they're all launched at the same time. It could have been just the thing wasn't quite going the right direction or angle to the earth or something, and something got messed up. Maybe some kid hacked into it or something. Who knows, right? But but the cabal might not want this to go up, and that's what leads some people to believe that they may have been shot down or somehow knocked out of orbit. But if they were trying to do that, they would certainly do more than 40, because there's like 1,000 of them up there or something. There's a lot of them up there. They do like 40, 50, or 100 per launch. They are really putting those things up there. And from what I have gathered, they lock into a ground station, some designated ground point, and they create this World Wide Web, like literally a World Wide Web, like a web all around the planet. It's like, wow. It's like Elon Musk took the word World Wide Web and went, yeah, let's make it with satellites. So I don't know. I have my reservations about this whole thing. I just don't like the idea of people being radiated with any kind of radiation more than we're getting from these giant cell towers that are already up here that looks just like the inside of a microwave if you took it apart. Like looks exactly the same. I think because it is, you know. It's microwave. They just turn that thing up. They could cook everybody, couldn't they? That's what I worry about. I don't want that to happen. That wouldn't be a good way to go. Then we'd have to not only have a tinfoil hat, but a tinfoil suit, which actually might be kind of cool. So I think we should all be working on that, maybe. More like CGI? I don't know. Yeah, well, I think it was caught by several different people. You know, when I was a young kid and I was thinking about the future, one thing I envisioned, this was back in the 70s, I envisioned in the future that we would have no need for cars and we'd all just have a jetpack. Get a jetpack, strap it on, punch in. Now, I was thinking about this in the 70s, okay? In my mind, the way this would work, because you couldn't have people just willy-nilly flying around bumping into each other. So my thought was, well, you'd have to have a grid in the air, like an imaginary grid that a computer or something would sense. And it would take you like, okay, 2 vectors over, 1 vector up, 1 vector over. So they all avoid each other, you know, by flying around in these patterns. Kind of like a very sophisticated, what they have at airports, at the lookout tower, what's that called? The word escapes me. Flight control people. No, the CME would take out satellites for sure. That would. So it is a pretty good explanation if that is indeed what it is. It could be. It could be. It very much could be. That's right. The Hopi prophecy said something about the World Web is ending signs. Big change, look up. Yes, and a lot of people thought that was the chemtrails. Oops, I probably shouldn't say that in this either. Oh, look, we have a caller. Hello, caller. Turn off the stream in the back. Welcome.
Hello. Hello.
It's Austin.
This is Austin.
Good to hear from you.
I thought I'd call in. It hadn't been in touch for a while. Just a question. You're in Wisconsin?
Yes, sir.
Aha, I thought so. I came across just a little quote from a Lincoln speech that he gave in Wisconsin, so I thought I'd bring it up.
Okay.
It was just a neat little statement here. It's from this book, Abraham Lincoln and the Promise of 1776 by Robert Ingraham, and he was biography of Lincoln, and he has this quote expressing Lincoln's views on progress in agriculture and science and technology driving our economy to a higher level and better state of affairs. So he made this speech to the Wisconsin State Agricultural Society on September 30th, 1859, and this was before he was president. It just outlined his views on agricultural science, and it says, and this is just an excerpt, but it says, Lincoln says, "I know nothing so pleasant to the mind as the discovery of anything that is at once new and valuable. Nothing that so lightens and sweetens toil as the hopeful pursuit of such discovery. For the mind, already trained to thought in the country school or higher school, every blade of grass is a study, and to produce two where there was but one is both a profit and a pleasure. And not grass alone, but soils, seed, and seasons, hedges, ditches, and fences, draining, droughts, and irrigation, saving crops, pests of crops, diseases of crops, and what will prevent or cure them, The thousand things of which these are specimens, each a world of study within itself. And all of this book learning is available. A capacity and taste for reading gives access to whatever has already been discovered by others. It is the key, or one of the keys, to the already solved problems. And not only so, it gives relish and facility for successfully pursuing the unsolved ones. Population must increase rapidly, more rapidly than in former times, and ere long the most valuable of all arts will be the art of deriving a comfortable subsistence from the smallest area of soil. No community whose every member possesses this art can ever be the victim of oppression in any of its forms. Such community will be alike independent of crowned kings, money kings, and land kings. And that's the end of the excerpt.
Wow, that's pretty detailed.
Of course, when he became president, he created the Department of Agriculture.
Smart guy, very smart.
But the idea is that you're always supposed to have some kind of science driver moving forward for the betterment of humanity.
Yeah.
These are ideas which we seem to have lost track of in recent times.
Yes. Well, people are born into such a comfortable little world that they didn't have to have any part in making. You know, it's very strange. I mean, if you and I were sent back in time and we were telling people about what the future had, computers and all this stuff, they'd say, well, build one. We wouldn't know how to build a computer. I mean, maybe you would, but
not quite.
most people, they know how to turn a computer on and use it, but most people, if they were sent back into the past and, hey, build us a computer or build us something from the future, we couldn't do it, you know? It would be very difficult.
Yeah, there was a Twilight Zone episode along those very lines. A guy went back in time to gets a chance to go back in time to change things, and he keeps haranguing people, naming all kinds of inventions that could be built to change things and make things easier and make them rich. But he can't describe how to achieve a single one of those inventions.
Right.
And he knows a location where there's an oil field, a very productive oil field, but it's down. The oil is down below the depth where the drilling technology of that day can reach it. He can't do a thing about that because he doesn't know the drilling technology, how to build it from scratch.
Right. Wow. I think even in Back to the Future, I think that scientist, what was his name? He went back in the past and he made an ice making machine.
Yeah.
And some very rudimentary things, but still futuristic.
Yeah, Doc Brown was the character's name. I'm trying to remember the actor's name. He was the guy who was on, I think, a show called Taxi.
Yeah. Great actor. Great face.
Yeah, he's a funny guy. He's a funny guy, and he's a good actor as well. His latest thing, the last time I heard of him, he was on stage doing King Lear. He's a real old guy now.
Yeah, I bet. Well, I think he was born old. He was one of those guys. He always looked old.
Yeah, he's always played older characters. That's right.
But I think
that there was
that pairing those two with what's his name, the young guy who's now got Parkinson's. Can't remember his name.
I'm not remembering names at all.
Anyway,
yeah, my mind kind of went back in time to Lincoln.
I think that those two actors were perfect together in that series, the 3 movies. They made the second 2 movies simultaneously.
Oh, I didn't know they were done at the same time, exactly the same. Of course, it was a continuous story.
They shot both of them at the same time because they thought, well, we'll have a lot of the same sets and we'll be able to utilize them for both films. Let's just shoot both of them. I think they did shoot. I think that's what I heard. Michael J. Fox. That's it.
Yeah, Michael J. Fox. I still can't remember the older guy.
Peggy Dancer just put that right after I said it, but the timing of these chats is probably going to look like I read it, but that's okay. Yeah. Yeah. For some reason, names are eluding me. Yeah. Abraham Lincoln was a great president. And I used to draw him a lot when I was a kid because he's got such an interesting face. And I even sculpted him out of snow when I was like in second grade. And I still do it some years even today. He's just got such an interesting face.
Yeah, Mad Pogue just said it was Christopher Lloyd. That's the name I couldn't remember.
Christopher Lloyd.
And I like that actor. I ought to remember the name, but I couldn't remember it. Christopher Lloyd.
You said Mad Pogue. Now, is that the correct pronunciation of it? I thought it was Mad Podge. Mad Pogue.
Oh well, there was an astronaut name. His last name was Pogue. They always pronounced it Pogue.
Okay.
They named a wristwatch after him.
Oh, really?
The guy named Pogue, I can't remember his first name. He was one of the Skylab astronauts. I think he was one of the scientist astronauts chosen in the mid-'60s. He was not going to go to the moon. They trained him for this space station experiment called Skylab that was a very distant predecessor of the ISS way back in the early 70s.
I remember it. Yep. It was very cool.
Astronauts, some NASA people, they did this deal where they bought up a batch of expensive, but not if you buy them in bulk, but wristwatches. Now, this was before quartz, so they have to be mechanical and they have to be damn near perfect mechanical, which is easier said than done. Mm-hmm. So these were Omega Speedmaster professional chronograph wristwatches that were bought up for the team of astronauts in the mid-'60s. The engineers bought up like a batch of 200 of these to issue to astronauts, and most of them got given away as gifts to VIPs. Mm-hmm. But the pilot astronauts of the moon missions were wearing Omega wristwatches. Cool. And somebody noted on the Skylab mission that this guy named Pogue was the exception to the rule. He did not have the Omega wristwatch on. He wore a Seiko.
Oh.
He had a Seiko version of something that I think was like a GMT type watch that'll show you more than one time zone, mm-hmm. which actually is pretty practical on a space mission because you're covering a lot of time zones. So anyway, this guy Pogue, it was a Seiko watch that had these bright colors on its dial that was utterly unprecedented for that day. Of course, there's lots of stuff like that out there now, but in those days, wristwatches rarely had bright colors on them. And Pogue wore this Seiko watch that forever after became known as the Pogue.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Watch freaks give the Seiko watches funny nicknames. And this one was always called the Pogue from that time onward.
That's interesting.
But Seiko discontinued it. That's another thing. Watch geeks will go on and on, ranting and raving when things like that happen.
So I imagine the sales of those other watches went nuts because everyone was watching the space program back then. I mean, it must have been.
Well, yeah, that you'd think so. It's like I say, it's a high end kind of thing. The days before quartz, they had to be mechanical and they had to be absolutely perfect. And mm-hmm. finding that combination is in an age of mass production was. They ended up with the wristwatch story, though, has an interesting sideline. That one man who got offended, the NASA engineers who bought the Omega watches for the astronauts to use, they did this without following the normal procurement rules that government agencies are supposed to follow, mm-hmm. where you make you have a request for proposals or request for this service to the vendors, and the vendors send in bids, sealed bids, mm-hmm. and the lowest bidder gets the contract is how it's supposed to work. And that's not how they selected the wristwatches. They just arbitrarily went with Omega. Mm. And a man who got offended by this and tried to make an issue out of it was a retired general in the United States Army, the guy who was Omar Bradley. After World War II, when he retired from the Army, these various corporations, since he was such an important public figure, important general, he got on the boards of various corporations. I mean, he was on the board of directors for Lionel Trains.
Oh.
And he was also on the board of directors for Bulova Company.
Good watch.
Bulova was just about to completely move all of its office facilities and things to Switzerland. They still had a presence in North America at that time, other than just marketing. And he wanted to keep it in the USA because it was a company that had been founded in the USA originally.
Okay.
And he resented the fact that NASA did this without any consultation with his company, even though they had been government contractors for years and years and years.
Wow. I mean,
Bullock was trying to win contracts with NASA for various timekeeping devices.
Could the Omegas been slipped in there? Maybe some foreign power put like some kind of bugging mechanism in there so they could listen to see what was happening?
Well, that's sort of a 21st century kind of thought there, because nowadays, of course, all our gadgets are electrical and have batteries in them, and it's very, very easy for the powers that be to put in surveillance devices and anything that's got a battery on it and electrically powered. But back in those days, these were mechanical. These were mechanical, not electrical things. And in those days, there was another thing that was said at the time that nobody says today, but it may be relevant to this business of Elon Musk satellites being lost.
Okay.
There was a concern about electrical devices getting affected by solar radiation and Van Allen belt radiation. The idea is that when the quartz wristwatches finally came out, I believe that was circa 1970 or thereabouts, NASA didn't want to use them. They wanted mechanical wristwatches to be worn by astronauts because they were less likely to suffer electrical or radiation interference. And so these mechanical watches, especially the Omegas, continued to be in use well after the time that you'd think that such old technology would have been abandoned.
Wow.
Because I have seen Omega Speedmaster watches on the wrists of people in recent times involved in space missions.
Interesting. Now,
So
with your vast knowledge, you probably heard this one. This is one I heard of, a much more simpler story where NASA was finding out with their manned missions that ballpoint pens didn't work because the gravity wasn't there to pull the ink down. So they spent like millions of dollars trying to design an ink pen that would work in space. In the meantime, they used pencils. So pencils always work.
Yeah. The Soviet Union's cosmonaut corps, they've always used pencils, and the solution that was developed was a pen that had a pressurized cartridge in it. It was the Fisher Space Pen.
Right.
They were prime contractors for a long, long time. I don't know if they still are. For a long time, I owned a pen that was essentially the same model issue to the astronauts. It was called the G7.
Okay.
Fisher Space Pen. I had one. It was a beautiful stainless steel pen that had that pressurized cartridge, and it would write upside down and so forth. And it was supposed to be a precise replica, exactly the same as astronauts carried, which is why I wanted it. But somewhere down the line, I've lost this. I can't find it these days. It's got away from me, and it's either gone forever or it's under my bed. It's lost in the clutter. Long gone, and I can't find it. But that was my Fisher Space Pen.
Wow.
The other pen story. There's another one.
Wait. Before you say that, I just got to cut in, and because in the chat, Artist 61 made it known that she is Abraham Lincoln's cousin. Abraham Lincoln is my cousin. Abe's mother and my grandmother were sister. So Abe's mother and her grandmother were sisters. So that's
Yeah, that's pretty remarkable. That's really something I'd be proud of. That now Lincoln was born in 1809, so it's like maybe great grandmother or something along those lines.
could be.
It was 1809 was when he was born.
Yeah.
The other space pen was made by, I believe, Pentel, and it's a felt tip. Because the Japanese company was trying to perfect the felt tip pen,
Mm-hmm.
and they created essentially the same technology we see today in the Sharpie. I mean,
Okay.
the Sharpie's a different company, but it's the
Right.
American iteration of this. And they had a fine point felt tip pen that they produced mid 60s era, right, circa 65.
Yeah.
And a big batch of these pens, these would write upside down. They were felt tips, and they were made out of plastic and just cheaper than dirt.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very inexpensive compared to the Fisher Space Pen, which was kind of the Cadillac of pens, or the Rolls Royce of pens. But
Right.
this was plastic felt tip.
But then but the trusty pencil always worked, right?
Yeah, the pencil always worked, but of course, pencil frequently you've got a problem with the lead breaking, and
Sharpening.
when you have to sharpen them, you've got all those shavings. That it's not something you really want in free fall conditions. But
Yeah.
this Japanese pen, somebody at Lyndon Johnson's White House found out about it and bought a batch, essentially so that they could be there could be a box on every desk with like 50 pens or something, 25 pen box on every desk or some such in the White House.
Mm-hmm.
And these got known to astronauts and were carried on space missions, and actually they were preferred over the Fisher Space Pens. The expensive Fisher Space Pen was maybe a little too much of a good thing. These felt tips were way more economical. You could carry multiples in case one failed, and they rarely. This was the golden age of Japanese engineering. These things wouldn't fail.
Okay, we got some images of them up here now. I just did a DuckDuckGo, and here we got Fisher Space Pen. So there they are. Yeah, I've used one of these too. One of my designer friends, or maybe one of the directors, or one of my managers had one, and I got to use it for a little while. Very cool.
Yeah, I love that one I had, but I've lost it. And then the other option, it's let's see, the Japanese one is called the Pentel Sign Pen, SIGN Sign Pen, Pentel Sign Pen, and it's just like a Sharpie basically. Except it's a little older. The Sharpie is like some competitor looked at this and said, "Oh, how are we going to beat this?" And I know, we'll make the tip a little sharper. And that was the origin of the Sharpie. It's the competitor to the Pentel Sign Pen.
Wow.
It's just a little pointier than Pentel's product.
Interesting.
The Pentels, their first one ever was basic black one. That was what astronauts carried, and the Lyndon Johnson White House bought in bulk. And later models, they came out with multiple colors, and lots of people have used them on art projects and things. They're available in all kinds of colors. But that is an unofficial space pen, because it's really it was the preferred space pen over Fisher, really. The Fishers were just a little too expensive.
Interesting. Very interesting. I had an idea, and let me just bounce it off you in the chat and see what people think about this idea I had today. Now, you're familiar with the truckers over there in Canada, the Freedom Convoy, right?
Yeah, that's been the subject of a lot of chatter on the internet. That's for sure.
So I had an idea today. So they've had problems. They first with GoFundMe, they tried to steal like $9 million from them. I think that got, and then they went to this other one, Give Send Go, and that was somehow frozen or something. The government, I don't know, something. So the problem is when it gets to like 10 million, they somehow they freeze it. They can't give it to the people. So I had this idea to decentralize it and to send the money with drones, like to some patriots who are nearby that can send it by drone to different areas, and they can send it back with the phone number of another trucker that needs money, and then they could get the money right to the people with drones. I don't know.
Well, what I'm hearing, they're going to need bail money.
Yeah.
They're going to need loan. It's their lawyers that are going to be asking for money.
Yeah, now there's a lawyer number that they're posting out, California lawyers that will do all their lawyering for free. They just send them all the tickets, anything they get, and they'll start working on it for free. They're donating their time, so that's really awesome. Also,
I hope it works. I hope it works out, but I'm not real hopeful because Canada is a British dominion. It's not. They don't have the same kind of constitution we have. I don't know that they have a Bill of Rights that guarantees a right of free expression.
They do. I think they do. They have a very good constitution for the people. Maybe it's not quite as good as ours. I don't know. Although we're a little biased, I think. But from what I can gather, these emergency things that they're doing go against the main constitution of Canada. So there looks like there is some legal way to fix this just with their existing constitution. Clearly, what's happening is atrocious. I just think maybe to get some money to the truckers, it can be done with drones. They can fly in and fly out, being almost undetected. Maybe then the cops would shoot at the drones or something. But I just think it's going to be a horrible picture to have these riot police pulling these people from their vehicles and their families and throwing them into a holding camp. I think that's going to be, the people are just not going to have it. And it's like that scene in Ants. If we let one ant stand up, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100-1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. So that's what it is. Trudeau just needs to quit, and they need to put in some real people and not some globalist puppet that has half of his cabinet that are Klaus Schwab people, the Great Reset, the not so Great Reset. Yeah.
Well, it's the same cabal of international banking interests that were really Abraham Lincoln's principal enemies.
Yeah.
The truth be told.
And JFK.
And JFK as well, if you really want to take it forward in time.
And Reagan and Trump.
Probably every nationalist leader, because their whole policies are predicated on control by the banking interests and a policy of free trade.
And I think
no tariff.
To some extent, Carter too, because you remember now, Jimmy Carter did not start any wars, and there wasn't even a shot fired in 4 years. So he I think was a pain in the butt to the military-industrial complex, which is probably why he got such bad press.
Yeah, I never thought of him in that light. That's a real possibility there.
Yeah, and he put solar panels on the White House. He was really a forward-thinking kind of a guy.
Yeah, yeah, he had some good ideas.
He did. And my parents took advantage of some of his ideas. One was, if you increased the fuel efficiency of your home, you could get these rebates from the government. And so we insulated our house. We put new siding with insulation on it, and we saved money, and we got these bonuses, right? So it was a really smart thing to do. And we got through the energy crisis. Everyone tightened their belt, and it was a really effective grassroots effort, and it really did work, you know. But yeah, the few things that he did right are overshadowed by the bad press he got, and the failed attempt at rescuing the hostages. So,
well, it kind of underscores that this whole problem is not really right wing versus left wing so much as it's nationalist versus globalist.
Yeah, right. I think nationalists is the way to go. Everyone from every country has the right to be proud of that country and their accomplishments. And there's room for everybody. And the difference is what makes the planet a better place. So we can all live in peace and trade together and have no conflict. There doesn't need to be conflict. I think it's all artificial. So I see nothing wrong with nationalism. Just as long as we respect each other, each nation respects other nations, which I don't think happens now because, we were doing regime change, which is not an American thing, really, traditionally.
It never, yeah, that's true. That's one of the early presidents. I think it was John Adams. I can't remember if it was John Adams or John Quincy Adams because I get it mixed up.
Yeah.
Said that it was not America's task to go out into the world looking for monsters to slay.
Right. Because a lot of times it's a phony monster, and it's a false flag that gets it started. But then
that's right.
The warmongers get their money, and the reptilians get their loosh. If that's what's happening. Very interesting. Yes. So a 1776 book, 1859, about Abraham Lincoln. That's really interesting. Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, it's sort of outlining his philosophy. Really, it was agriculture, but really, it's the underlying philosophy is just a pro-progress, pro-nationalist point of view.
I was just talking to Andrew Bashago again today, and I was asking him about when he met with George Washington, General George Washington. And General George Washington was talking to Alexander, what's his name?
Hamilton.
Yeah.
Hamilton.
Says, did you hear that? Did you ever hear anything so ridiculous? He had like an English accent. I can't do English accents. These boys claim they're from the future. Have you ever heard anything so ridiculous? And they were kind of laughing about it. And Andrew pulled out this hologram, this printed hologram. And he said, well, certainly you can appreciate that this was not printed in your time. And he looked at it, he goes, oh, yes, I definitely can see that this was not printed in our time. He says, it was printed in our time. We come from 1970, from your future. We're time travelers. We're boys from the future of America, the greatest country, and he had this whole thing that he said. And General George Washington kept asking him, are you boys angels? And he kept saying that, even after he said, no, sir, we are young children in a time travel program from the future, from 1970. He couldn't understand what time travel was. He kept saying, are you boys angels? So in his diary, he wrote that 2 angels came to him and told him to move out that night, move camp. And that's one of the things that led to victory, one of the big victories in the war. So, and he's trying to remember, he said he was describing what it was. It was like an eagle with like red and white stripes behind it and blue stars. So apparently it had color. It was a hologram with color. And
Uh-huh.
with a crest, he's like standing on a crest or in the frame of a crest. And it would like
Mm-hmm.
move when you turned it. And he said, he looked at it, he said, I must show this to Ben Franklin. And
Hmm.
so I'm wondering, did they ever find this artifact from the future in either Washington's or Benjamin Franklin's things? Probably stuck away in a
That
book.
would be a curious question, because there's a whole literature out there on what are called UPARTs. That's the out of place artifacts.
Right, right.
It's that enters into, so that it sort of intersects with the whole field of Fortean studies, studies of weird things that happen that don't fit the accepted paradigms.
Right.
I'm trying to think of stories of UPARTs. Supposedly, let's see, somebody supposedly found some kind of fossilized pocket calculator or something.
Right.
I don't know the details of that one.
Yeah.
But there was the one that's been on television that's accessible. The UPART that's best known to me, because I watched it rerun a number of times. The TV show called Ancient Aliens that's on the History Channel.
Yeah.
It's on Friday nights. One of the Ancient Alien episodes, David Hatcher Childress and Giorgio Zoukalos went to Romania to look at this strange UPART that had been found, some Romanian construction site. They dug down and found the bones of a prehistoric, either a mammoth or a mastodon, I can't remember which, but big elephant-like creature, now extinct. So it'd have to be at least from 10,000 years ago, at least, if not older. And then a level below that, they found a piece of metal, and the piece of metal was aluminum, and it was a wedge-shaped block of aluminum. That was like maybe foot long, 6 inches wide, something like that. But it was a block of this metal that was wedge-shaped, made out of aluminum, and had a deep patina on it and a hole in it. It was a machined piece of metal, and it was from a level below that dead mastodon.
Wow.
And their theory was that this was a piece off of a landing leg from a spacecraft.
Wow.
And what they used made me laugh to illustrate what they were talking about. The piece of wedge-shaped metal looked just like one of the landing pads on the Jupiter 2 spacecraft from Lost in Space TV series of the 60s.
I mean, it was a set.
So it was like the Jupiter 2 had lost one of its landing feet.
Wow. Well,
and this is a legitimate artifact. I mean, they named the museum. They talked to the curator, the lady who's in charge of this collection there, and it's kept at this museum in Romania, but it's not publicly displayed. It's kept in a back room in a box.
Well, but
like they're embarrassed by it.
The surface of the Earth is tumultuous at times, and it churns up and covers over a lot. I mean, that's why you don't see any craters on Earth, because it's so malleable that for any previous advanced civilizations, there's going to be their stuff mixed in there somewhere. It's going to be underneath some stuff and churned in, and just like in the future, I mean, sad to say, but in the future, what's going to happen to all these nuclear power plants? They're going to be in ruins at some point, and they're going to be these toxic waste dumps. They'll be churned in. People are going to dig these up eons from now and go, oh my gosh, what were they messing with back then? That's Sometimes I think about that. Future archaeologists and what they're going to find here. Like, what were these people thinking? They had these everywhere? Wow. I don't know. Just to get electricity? I don't know, man. You can just crank a little electric motor and make electricity, right?
Yeah, well, I've heard another school of thought about that as well. But all the radioactive waste, since these represent synthetic elements that are radioactive, they all have some economic value for some purpose.
Sure.
So really, they shouldn't be disposed of as waste. They should all be recycled.
Yeah, definitely. You know,
But to have them recycled, you'd have to have quite a thriving nuclear industry going on.
Yeah.
To have uses for them, I mean.
I remember a story decades and decades ago where these people, these scientists, they took spent fuel rods from a nuclear power plant and they put them inside something that would keep them from breaking. And they took them, a bunch of them, like in like a big fork, and they dragged it through a dead lake or pond or something. And after they did that, the radioactivity of the rods were very diminished, and the pond came back to life because it was damaged in some kind of way. So
there was one of these, I can't remember the name, but one of these alternative physics kind of scientists, one of these outsider types, who said he had a technique that could just eliminate radioactivity from things. So he could treat all the waste and just make them harmless, supposedly. But I can't recall. This was years ago that I read this, and the story sounded. I'm always suspicious when a story sounds too good to be true. And this was one of those stories, but it was. Can't remember the man's name even. There's an organization based in Arizona. They have a newsletter. They cultivate they provide a forum for people with really unusual ideas about science and technology. Tesla Tech, I think it's called Tesla Tech.
Okay.
Just a club of Tesla enthusiasts, and they have until recently they had an annual get together in Arizona.
Yeah.
That was in Phoenix, Arizona, but this COVID business, they had to cancel 2020s.
Ridiculous.
They're probably going to be on. I think it's every year, June. They're probably having one this year, getting back from the panic. I believe Tesla Tech is the name of their newsletter. But I can't recall the name of the formal organization. They send me emails, but I'm not remembering things very well tonight.
Here's a page from the diary of Benjamin Franklin. He was a really good writer, very good penmanship, it looks like. Cursive. So that's interesting. I think these things should be studied more, what these people wrote back then, you know?
Well, yeah, and some of the things said about them by modern historians are just they may not be lies, but they're not very useful. I mean, going on and on and on. What I can remember about Ben Franklin from high school, how teachers would go on and on and on about what a ladies' man he was, blah blah blah. But I mean, he was a lot of things. He was quite a multi-talented and multi-dimensional individual. I mean, and one thing we don't do in our education, look for the underlying philosophical influences that led to this man following this path in life.
Yeah.
At some point in time, he had to decide for himself what's real and unreal, what's good and what's bad, what's up and what's down. You have to decide that for yourself and cut yourself off from your teachers at some point.
Yeah.
And when he did that, he started to fly. I mean, he just rose above the herd in a remarkable manner. And it would be worth looking at the influences on his thinking, because some of the things would surprise you. I've been told that he was a student of the German philosopher Gottfried Leibniz,
Okay.
which surprised me. I didn't know Leibniz had any influence in this country. And one of his influential teachers, when he was younger, was this New England preacher who was, I don't know if it was Cotton Mather or the son of Cotton Mather, but one of the New England preachers who we today think of as more or less a Christian fundamentalist type, was very influential to Benjamin Franklin, something of a mentor.
Interesting.
But that particular preacher, Cotton Mather, it rang a bell. And I remembered back to high school, and this is a thing that's worth noting. The one and only essay by Cotton Mather that I had ever read was in high school, and it was just an excerpt from one of his sermons, and it was a hellfire and damnation type sermon where it's ranting and raving about the fires of hell and the punishments after you're dead and damned and so on and so forth, and just the typical ranting Christian preacher stuff that you get from fundamentalists today. And that's what I read from Cotton Mather and what influenced my opinion of him. Well, that somebody had carefully cherry-picked that little gem to make him look bad.
Yeah.
The real Cotton Mather, he was the first influential clergyman in America to make to make a speech expressing his absolute opposition to human slavery.
Okay.
The first real, honest to God, 100% abolitionist.
Wow.
Was Cotton Mather, who preached about it, how evil it was, how wrong it was.
Yeah.
And that would have been early 1700s before it really got bad here.
Wow.
The early on, more people had listened to him. An awful lot of suffering and misery and war could have been prevented later on.
Wow.
But there's no representation of that point of view in our textbooks.
Well, I think you need to write the next textbook, buddy. I think you got a lot of knowledge that needs to be ushered on.
It'd be quite a task. Yeah, quite a task. This Robert Ingraham guy, whose book I found about Abraham Lincoln, is sort of trying to do that, trying to go back and start over again.
That's great. That's awesome. That is awesome. Abraham Lincoln was something else, man. And Benjamin Franklin, he of course invented the bifocals, which I'm very upset at him about because I keep thinking I'm seeing ghosts, but it's just my bifocals. Have built-in bifocals. But he also invented the lightning rod, which I think you could safely say saved like every tall building in this land after he invented it.
Well, what it really did in his own time. They weren't really building many tall buildings in those days, but what it really, really did in those days, it was a cultural thing in all Christian countries. Whenever there's a thunderstorm, somebody would go to the church and ring the bell while it was thundering.
Okay.
And that was a common custom of the era.
Sure.
of going way back, like the Middle Ages, and a rather stupid custom because, of course, you're in a tall building on a wet rope, and if lightning's hitting the ground, you're making a pathway to the lightning out of your body.
Yeah.
An awful lot of bell ringers got electrocuted.
Wow.
Well, all that ended when they started putting up lightning rods. And he probably saved maybe thousands of lives that way, maybe.
And churches and barns and buildings. Yeah. I
think churches, barns, and tall structures of any kind. things of that nature, and did so without it breaking the bank. I mean, it's not a complicated thing.
Yeah, it's just a grounding and a high.
Yeah.
Rod.
But I mean, it shows a little rudimentary fundamental understanding of how electricity works, and that was the beginning point of the whole technological revolution that followed. Really, of course, that any practical use of electricity was delayed a while, but he never lived to see electric generators. But
and he
but
flew.
The early generator technology is so simple, he could have lived to see it. It could have happened earlier.
And he flew a kite in a thunderstorm with piano wire as the string and a key that would stop the spark, I guess. Wow, that's a pretty dangerous thing to do. Pretty curious guy.
Yeah, that's pretty exceedingly dangerous. I mean, I think other people, that experiment got duplicated, though. That it became part of scientific lore because it was somebody had to go out and do the same thing to prove he was telling the truth.
Wow.
That's where it really gets brave, because you have to have more than one scientist willing to take that kind of risk.
Talking to Andy again, it just reminds me of some of the things that he said. He said that he and a few of the other children who were in this DARPA program, Project Pegasus, they were shown moving images of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and they turned it off and said, "What do we just see?" Oh, some recreation of the signing of independence. And the guy said, "No, that was the actual signing of the Declaration of Independence." Andrew said that Benjamin Franklin's head was enormous, that he was an enormous man. And especially his head was very big compared to the other people's heads. So.
Well, I never heard of that, but I'd heard that, of course, his work as a printer, he would operate a printing press, and in that time, the printing press technology was based on the wine press. So he'd be moving the plates up and down with this screw mechanism, and that takes considerable upper body strength. I mean, it's like working out with weights. So he would have been built like Schwarzenegger almost.
Right.
His upper body, just from his work as a printer.
Right. That's probably why he was that way. Good deduction.
And he would do a lot of swimming when he was younger.
Okay.
And probably when he was older too. He was pretty active as an old man. But I never heard about his head being unusually sized. Did Andrew say whether this image was a result of somebody going there with a camera?
No.
Or was it something from the chronovisor?
The chronovisor.
Or the chronovisor could give them that kind of imagery.
Right. It was a film of the chronovisor. So they would dial it in on the chronovisor and they'd film it. So they have film footage of it. So, and that's actually how they found out that they needed to send Andy to talk to Washington, General George Washington. Because they were watching General George Washington on the chronovisor. And they said, "Hey, look, he's talking to two young boys. Zoom in on it." So apparently they could zoom in. They zoomed in. Holy crap, it's Andy and one of the other kids in the program. We need to find out what they're saying.
Curious.
So they wrote down what they were saying. And they said, "Okay, now we got to get Andy. He's got to memorize this. And we have to send him to meet General George Washington." Wow.
Curious.
Isn't that wild?
All time travel stories are pretty wild.
Yeah.
It's hard for a time travel story not to be a little on the wild side.
Yeah.
That's you see that there was a television series. It was just a one season wonder, but it was back in the early 60s. Before Lost in Space, Irvin Allen did a show called The Time Tunnel.
I saw it. I loved it. It was my favorite. And I was so sad when it was not on the next year. I loved that show.
Which had, and looking back at it, it's a very Andrew Bashago-ish kind of scenario that going on there.
Yeah. Yeah, they had that like cornucopia thing they'd run into, kind of like a spiral cornucopia they'd run into. And
yeah, I don't know if it's described by Andrew, but a machine like that. But
no.
But the Montauk books by Peter Moon, Preston Nichols and Peter Moon's Montauk books. There's a time tunnel that gets constructed under Montauk at one point in time.
All right.
According to these books.
Well,
that's another one of those things I take with a definite more than a grain of salt, but right. You'd have to talk to Peter Moon to get a version of that would sound believable.
Okay. Well, Andrew talks about 8 different modalities of time travel that they were engaged in. They were researching and practicing. And one was the chronovisor.
Yeah.
Okay. I think another one was the fourth dimensional chronovisor, where they could lens it through an 8-sided bismuth crystal, and it would shine down like a holographic image of that past event into the lab, and then they could just immerse themselves into it.
Heard tell of something called looking glass also.
Yeah, he doesn't. Now, he did say that some people said, let's go take a look in the looking glass, but it was never officially called that when he was there. They also had plasma confinement, was another process that used radioactive plasma in a confined plexiglass area, developed by Dr. Sterling Colgate of the Colgate Company. And that's where he was wormholed back to Gettysburg. And he said, once you walk into the area where there's all this pink and blue radioactive plasma, a wormhole opens up under your feet and you're violently wormholed to that past event. And so violent that it knocked his shoes off and one of his socks off, and his jacket got knocked off, got blown off of him. So that's a very rough way to do it. And then he also said that
I've heard of airmen bailing out of aircraft and losing their shoes like that.
Oh yeah. And the Tesla Vortal teleporter was a time device too, but you couldn't go back to before when the machine was invented, because then you couldn't get back, apparently.
Did Andy say that it was invented by Tesla?
Well, it was built from Tesla's papers. And in Tesla's papers, it was just called the energetic array, according to his papers.
Curious.
Andrew's dad worked on this, and they built it, and they didn't know what this thing was. And he describes it as 2 like parenthesis-shaped booms coming out of the ground, like expensive 6-foot-tall speakers, kind of curved like parentheses, about 6 feet apart from each other, about 6 feet tall. And then a little computer next to it, and a guy on the computer next to it plugged into like a 220. And once he activated it, there was an energy field between the 2 booms. And he said it looked kind of like green squiggly worms, lit up worms going back and forth, kind of like TV roster in the old days. And you just run through that field of energy, you create a bubble. The faster you go in, you have to go at a certain speed. You can't go too slow. Otherwise, you won't create enough of an air bubble to survive. Because like six sailors died inside it because they didn't run in. They didn't get enough air. They all died of asphyxiation or suffocation.
Yeah, on the chat, Dark Brain just said he or she knows Sterling Colgate's son.
Oh, wow.
Not close, but knows him.
Interesting.
See, that's a question I have about a lot of these people that, of course, they've signed non-disclosure agreements, and chances are they've never discussed their work with their families, but I don't know that as an absolute.
Right. Guess who's calling in? It's our good friend Maximilian.
Yes. Hello.
There he is. We're talking to
Austin Morris.
Austin Morris from Knoxville.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah. And having a good old time. Well,
What's the topic of discussion?
oh boy, you name it. You name it.
Okay, all over the map, huh?
Oh yeah, I guess we're just talking about some of the Andrew Pishago stuff. And
Cool.
Austin was talking about
8 methods of time travel.
Yeah. And another one was spinning you out of your body so that you could astral project and go different places in the astral. And
Now that is not that wouldn't violate any laws of physics. You know, they've never been able to really define what consciousness is,
right,
which means
right.
they could never really prove that consciousness couldn't travel through time.
Right. So when he was out, they spun him. They put him on this, like, it's kind of like from a Batman set, right? They strap him on this turntable, and then they spin it at 33 or 33 and a half RPMs, and this spins you out of your body. And he was instructed,
Like a record player.
Yeah, like a record player. You spin me right round, baby, right round, like a record, baby, right round, round, round.
What happens when they spin you at 78?
I don't know, but he was instructed that after he was out of his body, for him to go as far as he could, So he did. He went as far as he could, and he came up against a screen, like a bumblebee against a screen. And he said he saw this mechanism that was like he thought maybe creating the hologram that we're all living in. And when he came back, he was debriefed. And the woman who was debriefing him asked him what he saw. And he said, I did like you said, I went as far as I could go. And I went really far and came up against the screen. And it looked like something was making matter. And I couldn't get past that. And she said, oh yeah, we've heard this from other people. We're calling it the Matrix. This is in the early 70s. We're calling it the Matrix. So that's interesting.
Well, that's what the Higgs boson does. It does what's called particle synthesis. And it's basically some imposed, like the imposed mathematics. It's a field that's imposed upon light that creates particles out of it, which is exactly what you're describing. It's creation of matter.
Okay.
So that's pretty interesting to me, certainly.
Yeah.
That's the nature of consciousness, though. We literally, we might as well call it love. It's the power of creation.
Yeah.
It's like the consciousness of God interacting with light to create the field of matter, which we call existence.
Mm-hmm. Hello, Free Range Brain and everybody else we missed. Abby, Jay Bying. Who else is up here? Abby. And everyone else that snuck in while we were talking. But yeah, another, I'm trying to think of all of the modalities he talked about. So we got the chronovisor.
Well, I keep thinking about that spinning business. I mean, okay, you get spun around and spun around and spun around as they time travel you, and then you upchuck. Where or when does the puke go?
I don't know. I didn't hear him say anything about puking, but yeah. Well, I was always the kid in my neighborhood where I was. They would spin me way up on a tire swing, and I'd tuck it in and spin like crazy, and I could walk a straight line after that. Everybody else was all wobbly, so I was sure I was going to be an astronaut. Look at me now; I'm in a spaceship.
Remember those playground merry-go-rounds where you try to get in the center there, or you laid down on it and people spun you around?
Yep.
Just think, maybe if they spun you around fast enough, you would have time traveled.
Could be. But I think that was mainly just out of body. I'm not sure if it was time travel linked. Maybe it could be, but that's just out of body by going out of body. But
okay.
I suppose, and remote viewing was another one that he talked about. Remote viewing, they time traveled that way. So the chronovisor, and he was sent to prehistoric times in Arizona, and he saw. He was sent there, fourth dimensional chronovision. So he felt like he was there, but they told him and the other kids that were sent, now if a large dinosaur is coming towards you and is going to step on you, don't worry, because he won't be able to step on you because you're just like a holographic image there. So he won't be able to hurt you. So don't worry about it. And they sent him back to a time before there were carnivores. So they're all just munching on leaves and stuff, he said. But they were all around him. And very interesting. He was describing what they looked like. Kind of like they had like a pinkish tip of a shiny spot, like a salmon or like a fish, some of these dinosaurs. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, the way evolution works, there are always carnivores. So if there were no carnivores about, it was the carnivores' siesta time. They'd already eaten.
Yeah. I saw a funny meme about, he showed a very, very rotund, very, very plump lion, like a cartoon lion. And you can see the arc in the background, and it said, he's saying, well, the buffet was good. Oops. Guess we're not going to have those animals anymore. Yeah. And Free Range Brain says, is Andrew coming back? Is he in good terms with Aaron? Yes, he's coming back sometime in the future. I don't have the chronovisor, so I don't know when, but it will be sometime in the future, possibly this summer, maybe. I'm hoping we'll have a brand new show, and it'll be amazing. Okay, and he should have his book done by then. His 300 chapter book. 300 chapters.
It sounds like that should be a series of books.
It was a book shown to him by his father in the early 70s. It's called.
Good Lord.
It's called Once Upon a Time in the Time Stream. And he said, "Look, son, here's the book you're going to write." Now, maybe it was his. Maybe it was Connie Chavez that showed it to him. I can't remember. I'll have to ask him again.
Have you had any contact with Corey Good?
He emailed me the other day because he wanted to have my interview with Steve Cefalo or Cefalo. I got to find out if I've been saying his name wrong. But he's the artist that just completed the comic book or graphic novel for Corey Good. And he liked it so much he wanted to put it on his channel. So I said, okay. So I sent a copy of the link to his channel. And so now on my channel, it's gotten over 200 views, but on Corey's channel, it's over 19,000 views. So
interesting.
He's got a few more followers than I do, apparently.
Yeah, I've sent off for that, but it's evidently it's not in print yet.
No, it's not.
Did we lose Max?
Hey, Max, you left us for a while there.
Somehow, I got affected. It was very confusing.
Hello?
He might have a weak battery or something.
We're not getting much of what you're saying there.
Okay.
Have you heard?
There's an interference of some kind.
Could be.
There was all kinds of strange noises, and then you cut out.
Really?
Yeah, it was like kind of like C-3PO, you know? It was like,
oh wow,
beep 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 beep, and then you're gone.
Wow, that's interesting.
I'm wondering about black helicopters.
Could be. I don't hear any black helicopters. Oh.
Uh-oh.
Are you there?
Your phone may have some holes in its soul.
Are you still with us, Max?
Yeah, I'm still there. I heard you were cutting out for a second.
Okay.
That's never happened. I've never had a bad connection with you.
Mad Pogue or Mad Podge, however it's said, says Max's shoe phone needs resold.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
that is a good one. I think that's such a funny thing when he'd be like in a theater and all of a sudden his phone would ring and he'd answer it. Anyone seeing him would know, hey, there's a secret spy guy. Let's check out his phone.
Everybody looking in on her like, what the hell is that guy doing?
It's not incognito at all. I mean, talking in your shoe, but it's so hilarious. God, I love that show. I have it on DVD, so I don't need to.
I remember getting the cone of silence and they couldn't talk.
Oh, yeah, they couldn't hear each other.
Those were hilarious scenes with the cone of silence. I remember that.
Yeah.
The cone of silence.
Yeah.
There's the love bugs again, too.
It was funny.
Yeah. The cone of silence. So many things in that show were so funny. Yeah. The best.
Did the chief have a number? I don't remember if the chief had a number or not.
I don't think so. He's just the chief.
The chief was always the chief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other agents had numbers except for Larrabee. Larrabee didn't have a number. He was the one who was always in disguise, but I mean, his disguises were insanely ridiculous. I mean, like he'd be disguised as a post box, and people would be dropping letters in his box.
Yeah.
And he'd be in the men's room disguised as a urinal.
Oh my.
Oh, no.
Stuff like that.
Poor Larrabee. Wow. Those old shows were the best.
Oh, yeah. If you look back at some of those days, it was
Green Acres.
far different than today.
They actually had funny writers back then. And actors who could actually translate that to something funny.
I was taking a nap a little earlier. I would have called, I don't know how long you've been on, but I would have called a little bit earlier, but I fell asleep.
Yeah, well.
And, but I woke up right in the middle of, what was it, Deep Space Nine. And as soon as I woke up, they were talking, there were 1,730 casualties on that. 1,730, that's Q30.
Ah, well, that's what woke you up.
I mean, as soon as I woke up, that's what I heard.
Wow. That's interesting.
Wild.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I heard of something the other day. I was watching Deep Space Nine, and they're trying to figure out how to, the captain was trying to figure out what to do, and he saw something on the back of something his mother had given him. It said the orm of the emissary. So you know me, I was trying to calculate the mathematics of that phrase to see if there's had anything. Well, so I did that, the orb and whatever, and everything was coming out looking like it wasn't random, right? It was, I think orb was the 15 and 18 and 33 and 35. That's a higher level octave of 17, okay? Because it adds to 8.
Okay.
It's God consciousness, the base power. And then the of is 21. There's 30, right? 2 and 1 is 3. And 33. So I was adding these all up, and I get to emissary, and I couldn't remember exactly how to spell emissary. So I asked the phone to tell me how to spell emissary. Well, it's quite weird because when I asked it to spell emissary, it didn't put a Y on the end. Like, that's bizarre. And I asked the phone again, and it didn't put a Y on it. And so when I was calculating, without the Y, the whole phrase came out, orb of the emissary came out to be Q30.
Okay.
But with the Y, of course, it didn't.
Right.
So the strange thing is the next day, I just decided to ask the phone again. I was going, I'm sorry. And it added the Y on the end.
All right.
But the day I was doing it, it would not put the Y on, no matter how many times I asked. I asked multiple phones how to spell it.
Wow.
Quite bizarre.
That is bizarre.
Why would Siri? I tried it with Siri and then Google, and I was trying to say, okay, this is bizarre.
Mm-hmm. It
So I
is.
even had somebody else do it on their phone to make sure I wasn't just imagining things.
Mm-hmm.
That's how strange things can get sometimes. You're like, what is going on here?
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
there's been a lot of connections lately. I'll sit there and listen to the show and be in the background, and all of a sudden now something will strike me as something I just heard. I just mentioned this last show that clothes kept coming up over and over again. Clothes,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's from a message for me, but there's some higher power is trying to send a message to me. Clothes. I don't know if it's meant for me or if it's meant for somebody in the audience or somebody, one of my friends, family, or I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't figured that one out yet. So I've been.
Well, if you can't make sense of it, then you don't really know it's a higher power.
That's true. You have to sense what you try to discern whether or not this is meant to be something good or bad, or
Mm-hmm.
we always have to have that discernment, right?
Yeah.
In case some kind of a evil is trying to, take us down the wrong path.
Well, one place where there's no evil at all is in the world of the awesome possum. So here is the second to the last page of the awesome possum. There you go. Want me to read that page to you? It's only like 4 lines.
Sure.
Maybe I did this already. I can't remember. Okay. He shares his toys, his books and stuff. He likes to share. It's not that tough. So he likes to share. He's sharing his super cubes and his little Dino Sounds book. Look at that. Flying a kite, having fun on this great Valentine's Day. There you go. That's the second to the last page. Not quite done yet, but it's almost done.
I used to love flying kites. Every
Oh, yeah.
Easter, I'd go to my grandparents on my dad's side, and we'd wake up on Easter Sunday, and there'd be all kinds of kites. Of all kinds of different types, and of course we couldn't fly them until after we got back from church.
Mm-hmm.
But we were out there. We'd break out the kites. You were still in our dress clothes. There were those special clothes that they had purchased for us, especially on Easter. So we'd get out there in those clothes for a little bit. We'd have an Easter egg contest Easter egg. They'd hide Easter eggs all over the farm.
Okay.
And maybe had about 10 dozen Easter eggs, and they were everywhere. And some of them, of course, they were the easy places for the younger children to find.
Mm-hmm.
And others were, a lot harder to find, like in the crack of a tree, branch up or something out of reach.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot of fun. A lot of memories, good memories there. The one bad.
If they've really banned Dr. Seuss, then that really, really creates a great need for books like this.
They probably banned the Easter eggs by now.
Good point, Austin. But I think that they're going to probably bring all that back as soon as we get some sanity back in charge. Oh, Operation Shutdown. Operation Shutdown says, Truth Quest with Aaron Moriarty, that drawing looks fantastic. Thank you very much, Operation Shutdown. Thanks. Yeah.
The only bad memory and all that was we had a piñata one year. There were all kinds of candy in it.
Yeah.
Kids love candy, right?
Sure.
So what could go wrong? It's inside the house. They got with a yardstick, and they got this big pinata, and they put blindfold on you. They spin you around and ask you to swing the yardstick.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, I swung the yardstick particularly hard and put a crease in the molding above the door.
Uh-oh.
And I got the yardstick broke over my rear end.
Uh-oh.
My grandfather, which I was pretty mad about that for a while. You know?
That's terrible.
I think I was about 8 years old or something. But I forgave. You know, obviously I forgave him. You know?
Mm-hmm.
But it was bad. I mean, what do you think was going to happen? You said get a kid a yardstick and a blindfold and ask him to swing. You know?
You shouldn't spank no matter what happens. You know, I did that with my son. You know, my son had it was an aluminum bat, and we were outside. What could go wrong, right? I set him up. I said, okay. I stepped back a couple of steps. He hits me right on the head, right on top of the head with a bat. God, did that hurt? Excuse the lingo. Man, did that hurt. And everyone was laughing. Everyone was laughing. And it was like, not funny. You know, it hurt, man. Oh my
Mattel
God.
Hot Wheels.
Yeah.
I used to love that thing until I discovered that if you did something wrong, they would use that Hot Wheels track on you. And boy, that was not fun. So I stopped asking for Hot Wheels.
Oh no.
I did all the track.
Oh man. I never got that. We got the very thin leather belt of my father doubled over. And he'd always say before he spanked me, and you couldn't sit down. It left welts. You couldn't sit down, you couldn't lay down. And he said,
we survived it though.
He always had a little bit of humor though. He always say, now just remember, this is gonna hurt you a lot more than it's gonna hurt me.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah, why do they always say that?
Could he be laughing? Because he was laughing. He was laughing. But you know, my dad lost his dad when he was 6. So he pretty much didn't have a dad. So I think he did pretty good not having his dad himself. So but yeah, that belt, man, that really hurt. And that's something else. And a lot of times, you know, it's like, oh, when your dad gets home, you're gonna get a spanking. It's like, oh. And then it's several hours later when dad gets home and he's gonna spank you. And I'm sitting there thinking, which thing did I get caught doing today? Which one of the things I did I actually get caught at? I couldn't remember which of the things, there could have been several, that I did. Oh boy. Yeah, that wasn't fun. That was not fun. No.
There are a lot of great memories. The older children got when they had these Thanksgiving, not Thanksgiving, Easter get-togethers. You know, later in the evening, the older children got to stay up and they played all kinds of games in the kitchen table.
Okay, yeah.
My dad had a big family, so there was a big, gigantic table.
Mm-hmm.
We played Triominoes, and we played Scrabble, and we played all kinds of things. It was fun. So, and we also had those games with the you pour the stuff in the molds and they set up.
Oh yeah. Creepy.
I don't remember what they were.
Creepy crawlers. Creepy crawlers.
Yeah, that's what it was. Creepy crawlers.
Yeah. Mattel. Yeah. And it's like thing stuff or something. You pour it in or you squirt it in.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was great.
And then he invented one that you could eat.
Yeah. Yeah.
The first time, of course, it wasn't. It was like styrene or something. I don't know what it was, but
right, they were plastic, but then they made them edible. Yeah.
That was cool. I enjoyed that. Then I got my first chemistry set at 6.
Oh yeah.
Gilbert chemistry set. It had 78 different things.
Wow.
You know, my first invention was ant poison. I actually mixed a tiny little bit of each thing. That was in every plum, and it killed ants.
Wow.
But it didn't take long for me to realize that's not a very good use of the chemicals and the
Yeah.
came with it. But there were a lot of fun things, disappearing ink and
Oh, yeah.
things like that. It was fun. So I actually had, and by the time I was 10, I probably had 300 chemicals.
Okay. Wow.
And by the time I was in high school, I had 800.
Wow.
And by the time I was in high school, I was having I'd invite the fire department in to my lab. And of course, they get in my lab and they have their eyes get gigantic,
Uh-huh.
what are you doing, like they had entered another world.
Wow.
And
That's reminding me of the cartoon show Dexter's Laboratory.
yeah. And I had all kinds of things going on. I had giant kelp growing in the corner, and it was growing at about 2 feet a day.
Yeah.
And I had, rock cutting and polishing equipment.
Noisy.
I had bought this rare laser material.
Okay.
To make high power lasers from. I was making a 1-inch diameter YAG laser, which was extremely powerful. As part of the Shiva Laser Fusion Project, I got in a hold of a piece of equipment. I spent $700 for this crystal.
Okay.
And of course, that's why I bought all the rock cutting equipment, so I could cut this thing. But it was fun. I was learning how to make, a tiger eye, belt buckles, and
Yeah.
which turns out tiger eye. Tiger eye looks like.
Oh, yeah. Tiger eye. Pretty popular back in junior high, I think.
It's very toxic, though. If you breathe the fumes of that, it
Really?
can hurt you badly.
Wow.
Yeah, so you have to be really careful working with it.
Well, that's the same with polyvinyl chloride, PVC. They don't make chew toys anymore. They used to make it exclusively out of that, and they should have known because when you're molding that, when you're working at the place and they're molding that stuff, you have to wear a breathing apparatus. You have to have like something to breathe fresh air with that's not coming from the machine because it's toxic air coming out of the machine, toxic fumes.
See, I still have some historical things from that time. I still have my rock cutting equipment, and I still have my lab table.
Okay.
There was one time when I had one of my younger brothers got down into the laboratory, and I didn't know it. I had a glass mortar and pestle, and he put some stuff in, basically ingredients for gunpowder in there. He didn't know what he was doing, and I went to grind it up, and it ignited and blew up.
Whoa.
It had red phosphorus in it, so it was literally raining burning things, and it got on my hand. I was trying to put my hand out, my hand was on fire.
Oh my God.
I tried to put my hand out,
My.
and it burned about a quarter inch into the table, so my table's got lots of scars from that day.
Wow.
And now it's really like Dexter's lab.
So
In Dexter's laboratory lives the strangest boy you've ever seen. But DD blows his experiments to smithereens. Lots of gloom and doom when things go boom in Dexter's lab.
Wow.
I was trying to collect all the metals on the periodic table. So I have a huge collection.
Yeah.
And I actually used a lot of them. I was studying things. And
like uranium. What are you going to do with uranium? It's like,
I didn't have uranium, but
okay.
Yeah. But it's fun collecting them and trying to learn what you could use these elements for.
Mm-hmm. I got a question. I got a question for you. Oh, first finish your thought.
Say that again.
First finish your thought. What you were saying. I interrupted you.
somehow I still didn't hear that.
Oh, I interrupted you. Finish your thought.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just had all these different elements, and I was at first just trying to collect them, and then one by one, of course, I started digging into the elements and what you could do with them, and what kind of products they made from them, and then I got into alchemy. I was reading about the ancient alchemists, and I wondered, how many of the things that the ancient alchemists had discovered were true today, and of course, that's why I learned about the elixir of life,
Mm-hmm.
all these things, and of course, mainstream science has since dismissed them as not knowing what they're talking about. But I've come to realize today that not only were they right, but it's the basis for the secret space program.
There you go.
What they learned was one of the most important things today, because those things explain back the ancient alchemists were working with the things that explain the fundamental basis of the soul, and they lead to anti-gravity and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And sometime I'll go into that, but that's where I'm talking about the David Hudson's work and the monatomic elements and transdimensional materials.
Right.
The transdimensional materials are what the ancient alchemists were actually working with.
Okay.
And those are the things that will literally defy our notions of time. They're in the different dimensions. So time doesn't flow the same for those materials.
Mm-hmm.
They're in the modern materials that they can make UFO like crap out of.
Mm-hmm.
In the aluminum, they've got monatomic iridium in its transdimensional state. And it's when you try to analyze it by normal means, it doesn't show up as being there. It'll show up as 100%, almost 100% aluminum.
Okay.
Even though it's got 20% monatomic iridium in it.
Okay.
You just can't measure it.
Mad Podge said, could Max use the chemistry set to make element 115? And Operation Shutdown said, I bet Max beat Bob Lazar to element 115. Unobtainium. Unobtainium.
Not that I know of, but there were strange things. I wish I would have taken some better notes in the past. Things that happened. I actually worked for a chemical company that one time they had this very anomalous result, and nobody could explain it. And I was trying to figure out, they have what it's called a Tga Analytical Device. It's called thermal gravimetric analysis. And all it is that they've got a sample you've got a quartz tube with an inert gas like nitrogen flowing through it.
Okay.
And there's a little resistance wire inside that they use to control the heating rate of that gas flowing through there. And the heated gas flows over the sample within a little weighing tray. And as it heats up the sample, of course, the sample might lose off gas and decompose. And they can measure those changes in the weight, right?
Okay.
Well, there were all kinds of blips and things that, like described by David Hudson, and they were seeing that. They wondered if the machine was malfunctioning, just like David Hudson did. Of course, I had no idea that until looking back today that there was something unique about that sample.
Okay, interesting.
They had some of these monatomic elements in it.
Hmm.
But there were strange experiments where there were results that came out of the experiment that nobody could explain. This should not be happening. Everybody would scratch their head and says, "We don't know what's going on here."
Mm-hmm.
How can you start with this and end up with something you never put in the sample?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I never did figure it out at the time, but now looking back, I have a better understanding.
Okay.
I had dreams of going back. I had dreams where I time traveled to to that company that I was with after they had closed down. And that I time traveled, my consciousness at least, had time traveled there to the laboratory where I did my first experiments with superconductivity. So,
Okay.
that I don't know what to make of it. That's just a dream.
Okay.
You know?
All right.
That's one of the problems when you have. I don't think I actually physically went anywhere. I think just my consciousness of time travel.
Sure. You're spun out.
And so, you know, and the strange thing is looking back is the memories of those things happening and wondering what that was about.
Mm-hmm.
And then later having the experience that actually led to the time traveling. And I see now that some of the concepts that they had in Star Trek seem to be true. Like in time travel, effect can precede the cause. Because if you do something in the future, it doesn't just affect the future beyond that. It radiates backward in time. It only seems to do that just because we think of a linear time, right?
All right.
In effect, when you affect the timeline, you're affecting it in both directions, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It just in the way we think of our experience, that it's, you know, it's gone backward in time. Now that all time exists all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically all the set of possible things that could happen, and you just influenced which ones are more probable.
Mm-hmm. Now, the word radioactive, I was thinking about this word today. You know, when I went to the plant where they made the radio flyer. They still make it the same way they made it back in the 30s. You stamp it out of metal. And they called it radio flyer because back then, when they named it, I think back in the 30s, radio was like the newest technology. So they attached that word radio to almost everything, right? Oh, it's radioactive. Yeah. Now, we still say radioactive. We don't upgrade that. Like we don't say television active. Right. Yeah, it doesn't sound quite as good, does it? Television.
One of kind of the early wake-ups for me of the technologies being hidden from us.
Yeah.
I was freshman year in college, and I learned about this Arizona State University professor. His name was, can't remember his first name, but it's Brown.
Okay, Brown.
I think it's right before Back to the Future came out.
Okay, interesting.
And of course, the professor's name was Emmett Brown.
Right.
But anyway, this guy had claimed that he had found a way to neutralize radioactive materials.
Okay.
So I kept looking.
That's exactly what I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier.
The guy.
Same guy.
That's interesting. I'll have to go back and listen to it. I don't want to ask you to repeat it now, okay? But
I couldn't remember the name or any details.
Yeah, it's Brown. It's a guy named Brown, and you get little excerpts, but when you go to look it up, of course, it's been many years since my freshman year in college, of course. But back then, it wasn't as easy to find articles and things.
Right.
Even on a university campus, it wasn't as easy as it is today.
Right. Right. And
but I was trying to find that. I was trying to find that connection because I kept hearing about it, you know, through the grapevine, and I was like, "There's something important here. What is it?" You know, I couldn't let go of it. And I don't know if you know this, that they have found anomalous materials where when they do carbon dating on it, it seems to show that the materials are from the future.
Okay.
You know, there's definitely something radioactivity affects carbon dating, It makes it look like things are in the future.
Okay. I heard that our carbon dating is not accurate. There's some other different form of deriving the age of things that's used in the secret space program that's not what we were using here. It's very inaccurate, apparently.
Oh yeah. Well, it's good for certain things. Basically, it's like anything. It's good for certain things and not others. And of course, they couldn't explain this radioactive effect, or well, at least it wasn't published so that everybody could know about it. Right? They may know. I honestly don't know, so I can't answer the question.
Okay.
But it's obvious that there's some effect on radioactivity that throws off carbon dating.
Yes.
So, so they've had to try to develop new methods, and I actually had a contract one time to make this. There's a chemical that's used as a standard for another type of method, and I almost had a contract to make it for a major chemical company. But there's all kinds of new methods that are emerging. They have to think very hard, what kind of things change over time that you can use to date a material. So it's not an easy challenge.
They could just use the chronovisor. Just use the chronovisor and it could go right back.
Of course, yeah. That technology was revolutionary if it were in widespread use, right?
Yeah.
Because we could put dates on all these archaeological samples and know what's really going on as far as timelines of dates, at least in the past.
Yeah.
So yeah, it helped immensely because we wouldn't be guessing about when these things happened.
Right. Then maybe I could get a date for next Valentine's Day. Mad Paj asks, they still make radio flyers in the U.S.? Damn. Well, when I was working for an outfit, when I was working for this design firm in Minnesota back in the 90s, yes, they were still made in the same plant they were made in the 1930s. I mean, it's a gigantic machine, and the whole thing just reverberates. Ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. I mean, I can't imagine moving that. It's quite an operation. Yeah, the whole building kind of, and they crank them up. They crank them up.
National Laboratory, and he told me one time about his story about how he was approached to work at Area 51, either that or S4, and he said he worked by himself as a machinist, there, and he never had company, right? He had his assignments, but basically he spent the whole day in the lab, the machine shop, and they told him exactly what to do, and then he basically never saw anybody. All of a sudden, this guy is assigned to him. He's basically sticking to him like glue with just watching him. He was there for about 5 weeks. Really didn't say anything. Till about the end of the 5 weeks, he pulled him aside and says, "We'd like to have you work at this place where we've got everything you can imagine underground. We've got schools, we've got malls, we've got everything underground.
Yeah.
Anything your family would ever want."
Sure.
And says, all your needs to be provided for. And he said, "Well, what about my family?" He said, "Well, you can choose to take them with you, or you can just disappear. And then the outside world would think you died in some mysterious circumstance, and you come to work for us."
Wow.
Well, he did. He told me at first that he said no, but then he did die under bizarre circumstances. So, and I found his name on a list of documents that we refer to as the real file. There are 4 stacks of documents about 3.5 foot tall, and it was describing in great detail cold fusion experiments in the 60s. I saw documents from General Electric and Westinghouse, parts of the federal government, and whatever, describing how these things work. And there's this farmer from somewhere south of Nashville in Tennessee that had invented this device. It was about 3 foot in diameter, looked kind of like a saucer. When he powered the thing up, it went like either 7,000 feet in 9 seconds or 9,000 feet in 7 seconds.
John Cyril?
And it shot off 10 sparks 10 foot long as it went up into the sky.
Was that John Cyril, the Cyril effect engine generator?
No.
Different guy, huh?
No. But,
It's a similar story, very similar story.
Okay.
but I saw the documents in this pile of papers were about 5 different articles that had been published. That's something that our friend here, Mr. Austin, ought to look up, because it was a Knoxville paper
Wow.
from the 60s. I remember 64 in one of the days.
Okay.
And they had written a story about this farmer that claimed to have built this craft. So I always wanted to travel up to Knoxville and follow up on that, but I never did.
Interesting.
I regret that I didn't. You know,
Interesting.
if I had more information, I'd give it to Austin and see what he could find, but I don't have enough information.
Well, back in those days, Knoxville had 2 newspapers. There was the Journal and the Sentinel.
Huh.
The Journal was the morning paper, and the Sentinel was the evening paper back in those days. I have no idea which one would be the one, and I'm pretty cross at the Knoxville News Sentinel these days. That paper is woke and very, very pro-Biden. So they disgusted me. I dropped my subscription to them.
How can anyone be pro-Biden? I can't name no one can name anything he's done that's been good. No one.
Well, according to the Knoxville News Sentinel, he is our professor and our protector.
Bah.
Oh, wow.
Not.
How disgusting is that, huh?
Not.
Well,
he's a lump of silly.
I acquire these documents, which I could share with people, but my a friend that reneged on his promise to give them to me, but
okay,
because he wasn't going to do anything with it, I just, I wanted to get some of it out where in the public where people could see.
For the stuff I've read about the SSP recently, I'm wondering, that machinist guy who disappeared, he ended up on some slave labor camp on Mars.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
Could be. Yeah. It's not pretty. They treat some people good, like the engineers, the really smart ones, but the rest of them are just slave labor. And they tell them, okay, you're going to breed with this woman, and we're going to take the child when it's born and raise it to be this certain type of person. Yeah, it's really, really dark, very, very controlling, very totalitarian.
I tell you the thing that was leading up to.
Oh,
it's
okay.
crazy how you forget these things. But what I was originally going to tell you about this guy, he showed me one of his prototypes for a toy.
Okay.
He was trying to sell a Mattel.
Yeah.
And he machined a special hinge, and he had this this model airplane like thing that the wings folded back on it with this hinge, and you launch it. It was big. It was like 4-foot wingspan or 5-foot wingspan.
I think you told me about this before. Yeah.
Yeah, and you throw this thing, and it's perfect. When you threw it, the wings snap forward, and this thing just soars for, I don't know, hundreds of feet.
Wow.
He perfected this thing, and the detail was in the hinge, right? That's what made it work.
Mm-hmm.
and he'd machined that, he'd perfected that, and he was getting the runaround with the toy place.
Sure.
And possibly, if I'd known you at the time, I might have been able to, get him to make a demonstration before the company you were part of.
Yeah.
But
that'd been great.
But I wanted to help him so badly to get it in front of the right people, because it was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
You
That does sound neat. Hello, Susan. Happy Valentine's Day, Susan. And Abby and everybody else, Peggy Dancer and everyone else. Yeah. We're coming up on, it's coming up on 1 o'clock here. So I think we're going to maybe put a little cap on this one. I think it's been a great show. 2 great callers. Well, let me give Austin the last word. So let's start with you, Max. Last word.
Well, I'd just like to wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day. I hope you made a lot of wonderful memories today, and continue to stay strong, and don't let the fear they're putting out, take you off your path. Because we know this drumbeat of war it's a false flag in its own right.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to take us off, distract us from other things. So stay strong, and I love you all.
Great. Thank you very much, Max. And now it's your turn, Austin.
Well, I hope everyone had a good day. I hope everyone has a good night. I hope everyone does well. Thank you very much.
You're
Good
welcome.
being here.
You're very welcome.
Thank
Thank you so much for calling in. Thanks for calling in, both of you guys.
Okay. Happy Valentine's Day. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. All right. All right. Almost ready here, friends. All right. I want to thank everyone for coming today. Thank you so much. It's been fantastic spending this wonderful Valentine's Day with all of you, my very favorite best friends. So thank you so much to everyone in the chat. And thank you very much to Catherine Weiss for the very generous super chat. It helps to keep the lights on. And remember, we're coming back. This is only Monday, friends. Actually, it's Tuesday now. But we're on Wednesday and Friday. So come on back. But until then, keep those cameras and phones trained to the sky. So you can take that picture of that UFO and send it right on over here to the Truth Quest. You can talk about it here, because we're just downrange of strange, where the outrageous is contagious and the paranormal is the new normal. Until Wednesday and Friday, friends, peace in and happy Valentine's Day.